Welcome to the Smart Business Revolution podcast, where we feature top entrepreneurs, business leaders, and thought leaders and ask them how they built key relationships to get where they are today. Now, let's get started with the show. Welcome, everyone. Chad Franzen here. I am the host of today's show, the Smart Business Revolution podcast. Great to have you. If you've listened before, that each week, John Corcoran, the regular host, features smart CEOs, founders, and entrepreneurs of companies and organizations like Netflix, Grubhub, Redfin, Gusto, Kinko's, YPO, EO, Activision Blizzard, LendingTree, OpenTable, and many more. John, great to talk to you today.
Yeah, Chad, I'm excited to be here. And before we get into the topic for today, of course, this is brought to you by Rise25, our company, where we help businesses to give to and connect to their dream relationships and partnerships. And how do we do that? We do that by helping you to run your podcast. We are the easy button for a company to launch and run a podcast. We do three primary things, a three-legged stool: strategy, accountability, and full execution on the production. So, Chad, we like to kind of joke that Rise25 is the team of magic elves running in the background, making it look easy for any company and hosts so they can create amazing content, amazing relationships, and most importantly, run their business, and for me, the number one thing in life is relationships, and I'm always looking at ways to give to my best relationships. And I found that there's no better way over 15 years of doing this now than profiling the companies and the people that I most admire and respect and share what in the world that they have going on with the people that I know. So if you've ever thought about doing a podcast for business, you should do it. If you have any questions, you can go to rise25.com or email us at support@rise25.com. All right, Chad, what are we talking about today?
Yeah, we are going to talk about some of your some things that are going on with you. A recent book maybe that you're reading or that you've read, a little known tool that you use, someone in your network that has impacted you, and an issue in your industry. Why don't we get started with a recent book? What's a recent book maybe that you've read that you'd like to share with the rest of us?
Yeah, I just got finished reading over Automate Your Busywork by, I believe it's pronounced Tekken Tank, and he's the founder of Jotform, which is a great company and a client of ours. And this book is really about using tools and apps and technologies that have come along to allow you to engage in the most highest and most creative work that you can do by getting things off of your plate. And every day there's so much stuff that we do, whether it's checking email, whether it's something manual like downloading a file or backing up something. There's a lot of kind of busy work that we do that it's hard to lose. It's very easy to lose track of the fact that we can do these things faster now. I'll give you an example. I was just talking to one of our team members a couple of days ago, and I wanted to, I have a speaking engagement coming up in Seattle, and I wanted to create a list of all the people that are attending. And there's a couple of ways that you could do it. The old way of doing it is looking at the list of attendees, which was digital, but wasn't in the right format that I wanted. She could have typed out every name. That the hard part about that is that it takes a lot of time. It's manual. You might have typos, things like that. So it might not be totally accurate. Instead, what I had her do is just take a screenshot of it, upload it to ChatGPT, and then transcribe it, alphabetize it, and all this stuff happened in seconds. And so that's an example of something that could take a long amount of time, but new tool, been around just the last couple of years. Many of us don't even know that these things exist and can save you a lot of time. So that was the point of that book, was to increase your awareness of these different tools that exist to allow us to engage in the highest and most creative work that we can do.
How do you think people can find out about, tools that could help them do things that are everyday work that they never would have thought of? Oh, something can do this for me.
That's $1 million question. I mean,
you and Jeremy are always finding out new tools that
I guess, he and I love that kind of stuff. We love hearing about these, different tools that have come out that can speed up some process. And I think maybe it's just at its core, it's not loving doing tasks that are laborious and tedious, right? So the more that we can move towards tools that allow us to get those things off of our plate, I think the better off we are. I mean, if you go back not that long ago, go back 100 years, we had, elevator operators that were sitting in an elevator, with a crank all day long, up, down, up, down. Today that seems silly. But when the technology came along to eliminate that position, I'm sure people were up in arms. There were probably elevator operator unions that were furious about it, said it wasn't safe and things like that. But that was a very laborious, mundane type of work, and so it freed up that person to go do something better with their time. So yeah, I think that's ultimately at its core is just we're excited about new technologies that can allow us to get mundane work off of our plate and engage in more stimulating types of activities.
Okay, very interesting. So when you guys first started, or as you're trucking along, with Rise25, and there's a task that you found repetitive, and you at some point, like you're like, I'm just sick of doing this. Had you heard of all the tools that you guys have kind of adopted along the way, or did you Google like how do I, not have to send a manual email every single time I send an email, something like that?
Sometimes it's just stumbling across a tool. Someone mentions that they're using a tool in a particular way, and so you're like, "Oh, great, I could use that." Other times it is something where it's like, "Hey, this takes a lot of effort. It seems like there should be a tool that could help speed this up." So it really kind of varies depending on on what the activity is. I think increasingly these days it's we should all devote a portion of our week to becoming aware of different tools that exist, because otherwise we'll just be like our team member that would be just typing up those names rather than getting something done in seconds and then being able to move on to more stimulating activities.
Okay, speaking of little known tools, what's one that maybe you've found yourself using recently that you've grown an appreciation for?
I don't know if this is little known or not, but Jazz HR is a tool that we use. It's a hiring tool. It's a hiring and recruiting tool. It's technically called an applicant tracking tool, and so it's for hiring people to your company. And before this, we would put job posts in different places. We would draft a job post and then manually post it in multiple different places, which means you had to go into different platforms. You had to log in. You had to remember your password. You had to, type it up and put it into their system. You had to post it, maybe pay a fee or something like that. And then people had to apply. And so we'd have an application link, use a type form or something like that. They would fill it out. Then that would generate a bunch of responses. Those would then go into a spreadsheet. It was just a very convoluted process. And then we'd have to manually send emails and follow-ups and stuff like that. And so Jazz HR takes all of that and puts it into one system. So you create one job description in one place. It goes and is posted onto a career section on your own website. It also gets syndicated across all these different places. We actually found that our job recruiting costs went down because we were spending a lot of money before paying to be on all these different job boards. Afterwards, what we found is that we didn't have to pay these fees as much because we'd syndicate across all these different places without having to pay a fee, even though the software ain't cheap. It costs a couple $1,000s a year. We found that our overall costs went down when we switched to using this tool, in addition to just making it so much more efficient so we can hire a lot faster. There are other applicant tracking tools out there. We looked at a bunch of them when we were deciding on which one we wanted to use, and we settled on Jazz HR, and it's been a great choice for us. I think we've been using it for about maybe 4 or 5 years now.
Okay, very nice. As I mentioned, we want to talk about someone in your network who has impacted you, who has made a recent impact on you that's in your network.
Yeah, so I want to thank Jason Swank. Jason, the Smart Agency Masterclass is his podcast. He's been doing it for a number of years now. Jason has been such a great friend and collaborator, and we've been a member of his digital agency elite community. Jeremy has been a mentor in another community that he has for smaller agency owners. We've created podcasts together. We've done so many things together. We've attended his events. He's just been a really good friend and collaborator. There's so many different ways that we've worked with him, and so I'm deeply grateful for him. Also been just a great mentor. He built a very large agency before selling it. And so he's got so many great systems and processes, and he's got, strategies for all kinds of challenges that you run into when running an agency. And so I'm just deeply grateful for his friendship and for his mentorship.
Have you found yourself learning things from his podcast, Smart Agency Masterclass? You run an agency.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he has great guests on there. He really kind of distills down into the types of challenges that are common across different types of agencies. And he's had all kinds of different agencies on there, not just, digital marketing agencies, but pay-per-click and SEO and, new kinds of agencies that are emerging today. So yeah, he's had a real variety of different types of guests on there.
Then the last thing we'll talk about today is an issue in your industry. So in kind of the podcasting industry, what's an issue that you found to be something that's caught your attention?
Yeah. So the one that I want to talk about today is using AI to create show notes and content creation for your podcast. And there's a lot of people who, think that creating a podcast successfully for business is all just about the production of the episodes. What I found over 15 years of doing it is that it's a three-legged stool. And those three important things you have to get right are you have to have the right strategy. You have to have some external accountability because we all get busy. And if we don't have external accountability, it won't get done. And then finally, you have to get the production done. And each of those are of equal importance. And so, there are tools that will help speed up this process. Like Google Notebook LM is a tool that came out a few months ago, and it's got an amazing parlor trick. And that trick is that you can upload any document, which is truly phenomenal, any document or a series of web links and things like that. And you can say, create a podcast episode out of this. And, it'll whirl and, and process for a couple of minutes. And then it'll spit out a audio file of two people having a conversation about that thing. It's really amazing. And that's just the beginning. I'm sure it will get better. But do I think that this will replace the human to human connection of doing a podcast and the value of having a conversation with a Jason Swank or whoever that is for your industry? Absolutely not. It might supplement, it might create more content out there, but it's not going to replace those types of, relationships that you build, And there's been an explosion, if you take podcasting is kind of on a similar trajectory as blogs and websites were 20 years earlier. Blogs and websites, when they became popular, there was an explosion of content created around there. And the number of web pages on the web, just really was like on an exponential curve. And that may happen with podcasting, where there will be a lot more content out there. And I think that's amazing. When I started podcasting 15 years ago, there's very little content out there. Now it's incredible. Any topic under the sun that you want to learn about, you can go under your Spotify, you can go on your Apple Podcasts, you can search for that topic. If you're going to visit a place, you can go find some content. You can listen to it in your earbuds while you're driving or walking or in the airport on your way to wherever you're going. And that is truly phenomenal. So there will be more content out there, but I absolutely don't think that it will replace the human-to-human connection that you get and the real value that I've found from doing the actual podcast myself.
What about AI for show notes? You're in favor of that?
I think it will definitely improve the consistency and quality of show notes. And there's plenty of people out there that create podcasts right now and don't create any show notes. I was like that in the first couple of years where I hardly created any. And if I'd had a tool like that back then, I would have been excited about it. You got to still have human quality control because these tools are still emerging. But I think I think AI for show notes and for content creation, whether it's creating little snippets or creating excerpts or taking a podcast episode and turning it into an article, it will allow all of us to take different tools and speed it up faster. And that would be a great thing. It will allow us to create more content faster and ancillary content from the original podcast episode and do it faster. And so those are good uses of AI, but we definitely need to have a human who's overseeing these processes right now.
Sure. Be sure to check them out before you just go ahead and publish them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, John, any final thoughts? Great to talk to you once again.
Yeah, I mean, those are hopefully a couple of resources for people. And, definitely my eye is on AI. It came up a couple of times in this conversation, because I think that is a tool that will affect this industry of podcasting. As long as there's some kind of human oversight on it, I think that it will speed up processes and it will allow us to create more content more quickly. So, yeah, I'm excited about the year ahead.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks so much, John.
Thanks.
So long, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Smart Business Revolution podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.